I'm Mr. MegaManFan. This is the PC Engine Files, and today, by popular request, just for the Halloween season, this is Splatterhouse. Now, previously on Genesis Does, I took a look at Splatterhouse 3, but this is where it all got started, at least on home consoles. It actually got started earlier than that in the arcade, thanks to Namco putting it out November of 1988. Yeah, they missed October, but then again, I don't know if Halloween is as big of a deal in Japan as it is in the United States, so they might not have even considered it to be that important to meet a Halloween deadline of any sort. But they definitely took influence from slasher films, horror movies, the works of H.P. Lovecraft, as noted on the Wikipedia entry, and the game was controversial in its day. This is one of those games that was heavily criticized for its level of gore and violence, and fears that children would be unduly influenced by the gameplay. There were many parents who were just afraid out of their ever-loving minds that some innocent young child might go to a store and buy this video game. Well, first of all, how did they have that kind of money just walking around, like 50, 60, 70 bucks? Second of all, what parent lets their kid buy video games with money on their own anyway? If I had any kind of sense and I was a parent, I would not be letting my kid just willy-nilly buy video games. Even electronically through an e-shop, I would be monitoring their purchases. That just seems like what a responsible adult would do. And honestly, if any of these concerned citizens had actually sat down and played this game, or perhaps stood up and played it in an arcade, they would have seen that it is very cartoonish, not very gory or realistic. It's a side-scrolling beat-em-up where you literally splatter your enemies against the wall when you attack them with a bat, hence Splatterhouse. But you can also punch them if you don't have a weapon, so there's multiple means to attack. And unlike real life, if you die, you have extra lives. It's not one life game over. So there's just so many things that are not compatible with the idea that this is too violent for children. Maybe, as Strongbad would say, the teeniest, tiniest of babies. What do you think I am, man? No, you wouldn't let them play this, but if they could even hold the controller, that would be quite a feat in and of itself. So I'd say if you had an ESRB rating at the time, you'd probably aim for like T for teen, or if you really wanted to push it, you could call it M for mature, but definitely not AO, adults only, because nothing in the game ever rises to that level. In fact, the box art for the game, at least the TurboGrafx 16 version / PC Engine version, had a fake parental warning on it that said, "The horrifying theme of the game may be inappropriate for children and cowards." So they were mocking the idea that this game was too gruesome. Now, to be fair, I will give this some context and say that for the time, it probably was more gruesome than most people were used to. There's viscera, there's blood and guts, there's a body hanging from a noose in the ceiling, there's these creepy alien movie franchise type things crawling at you, trying to take bites out of you that look like they grew out of a pile of entrails. So it's still, I wouldn't call this scary for me, but it does come close to having jump scares, like when that last entrail jumps out of the body hanging from the ceiling. If you're not prepared for it, if you haven't played the game before, you'd be like, oh shit! It would be a minor jump scare at best. It wouldn't make your heart race or cause you to break out in a profuse sweat. Maybe if you were speed running the game and you missed it, that might cause you to break out in a sweat. Basically, what I'm saying to you is Splatterhouse, despite the reputation that it had back in the 1980s, I think it's very harmless, innocent fun. It's just a game where you play as a guy named Rick, who is a, quote, parapsychology student, That's obviously a made-up profession. There is no such thing. Maybe the Ghostbusters can be considered parapsychology students. I'm sure Venkman and Spengler would definitely qualify for that profession. Anyway, you're Rick Taylor, and you and your girlfriend Jennifer took refuge in a mansion, and while you were there, you got kidnapped by a guy named Dr. West. You awake in a dungeon wearing a terror mask or a hell mask, depending on the localization, and you have been given special powers because of it that give you superhuman strength, thus enabling you to fight off all the things that are trying to kill you, including the mansion itself, which turns out to be quite alive and quite willing to get you to die. So I guess Dr. West was trying to save his own life by fusing you with the terror mask and hoping that you could defeat his mansion and free them all from this evil menace that it has become. To some degree, Splatterhouse is a game of rote memorization, like these spikes that are in the sewer that you're swimming through. You have to memorize the timing so that you jump over them and hit the enemies that are coming at you, and you've got to juggle between whether you're jumping or whether you're attacking, because if you don't time it right, you could get hit by one or the other. And you kind of want to keep that weapon too, and if you get hit, you lose the weapon. Even though you have quote-unquote superhuman strength, it is a lot easier to do attacks at range with the weapon as opposed to having to beat them up with your fists. So, you learn where things are by playing it over and over again, and at least in the home version, if you die, you've got lots of continues, so you can remember where they are from the last time you died and do a little better the next time. And there are quite a few differences between the PC Engine / TurboGrafx 16 port and the arcade. Thankfully, Wikipedia lists a bunch of them, so I'll tell you a few of the more noteworthy ones. The arcade version shows Rick and Jennifer running through the storm into the mansion, and then Jennifer screams. This does not happen in the home console, as you've seen. There is no opening cinematic of any kind, you just get straight to the action. The weapon that you pick up in the beginning of Stage 1 was also changed from meat cleaver to wooden sticks, so toning down a little bit of the graphical violence for the home port. And also, some of the viscera of the game was removed, like the spilling of quote-unquote embryonic fluids from the boss in Stage 6 is completely edited out of the home port, and you just get a fiery explosion instead. And there's also a cutscene that was changed from the arcade, and I'm not going to tell you about that one at all. If you want to read the wiki entry, feel free, but I don't want to spoil it for you if you've never played this before. It's different from home to arcade, but either way, I won't give you the spoilers for it here. Now, I'm playing the TurboGrafx 16 version for this episode of the PC Engine Files, but it has changes compared to the PC Engine version, so there's even more differences. For example, the original version had Rick's mask as white instead of red, which made it more like Jason Voorhees, as previously noted, and they obviously decided with the popularity of Friday the 13th in North America, that could get them sued, so they did away with it. A lot of Japanese video game developers also believe there should be no Christian themes or overtones in games sold in North America, which is why Devil World for NES never got released here. So, cathedral arches, like a church, are removed from Stage 4's boss, and there's an inverted cross that's replaced with a severed head. And the boss, the grave of the final boss, was changed from a wooden cross to a tombstone, all in an effort to appease the North American market and make sure that this wouldn't get censored or banned altogether. But it didn't stop people from still getting up in arms and demanding that Congress do something about it, although they really didn't even try until Night Trap, which, again, I would say is comical that people got up in arms about it when you look at it from a modern vantage point. The full motion videos just seem cheesy. They're not anything that even rises to the level of the horror movies that inspired Splatterhouse, but because they were full motion videos and no one had ever seen that in video games outside of laserdisc animation like Dragon Slayer, it definitely caught people's attention. Just like the chandelier dropping on my head caught my attention. Another one of those jump scares that I should have been prepared for and completely forgot about. Practice makes perfect with Splatterhouse. And that is the chief complaint of people who play Splatterhouse, is that once you memorize everything, it's too easy and it's not fun. Has anybody ever said that about Super Mario Brothers though? Once you know how to play World 1-1, it's not fun anymore? If you really think that, okay, more power to you, but that's not my philosophy on a good video game. If you like the mechanics and you like the action, you like the sound and you like the graphics, then it's worth playing more than once. Even if you know how to play it, playing it again doesn't diminish the value because you enjoy the experience. I'm Mr. MegaManFan, and as always, thank you for watching.